We're back on 365 Sports and joined by Baylor Offensive Coordinator Jake Spavital with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and I'm David Smoak. Jake, can you kind of describe these last few weeks since you had the press conference with Dave Aranda at McLean Stadium? How do you describe? Is it a whirlwind? What is it? How do you describe it?
Yeah, I would say a whirlwind. I'm telling you, like it's in today's time of recruiting and just really the transfer portal and just trying to get the brand out as much as you possibly can in the state, on top of actually meeting with your current roster and putting together a new staff and actually trying to get to know them, man. It's been pretty crazy, but you just take it one day at a time, and there's a lot of great support. The structure of the program and the university is awesome, and it's been fun just kind of chipping away at it one day at a time. So still looking forward to getting to February. February is when the recruiting cycle goes to a dead period, and I think things are going to slow down even more for us.
How difficult, and you're in the recruiting mode right now, and you've done this before where you come into a place and you have to install a new system, but this one is different. How difficult is that to morph what guys can do, but add the new elements in, especially with players that have not played together when you throw in the transfer portal and all this as well?
Yeah, that's always a very interesting deal. But, just being here for the first time, when we do the install, it's going to be the first time everybody hears it. So, it's going to be good for everybody if you're, coming in new from the transfer portal or if you've been here for a few years. So, that's always a very tedious process. We actually start our football schools tomorrow with our current players, on campus. Our staff's going to come off the road for an afternoon football school session where we have an hour with our current players. So, we're going to start with the installs, which will be very, very generic, very base. And we'll do that for the next 2 weeks. And then once it kind of gets to the dead period, that's when our installs and more familiarity and getting to know our current roster even more. Because that's the name of the game right now is truly diving into your current players. Because, obviously anybody has the opportunity to leave at any given moment, but it's all about relationships, and you need to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and diving into these players as much as you possibly can and really just kind of easing them in this process of a new install.
Jake, what is that like specifically with the quarterbacks? And I know, Dequan Finn now on his way. I wasn't sure exactly if you could talk about him or not, but if you can, by all means, can you dive in on Dequan Finn, what made him an attractive option for you guys, and, just getting him to Waco and having him being a part of this program?
Yeah, Dequan's here, and he's in classes now, so we're happy to have him. But when I first got here, with Blake Chapin and him, moving on to another program, you have Sawyer Robinson who did a lot of great things. Last year showed great signs in that West Virginia game, and was fired up to be able to work with him. But we didn't have very many numbers, in that quarterback room. You bring in Nate Bennett, who just recently signed with us, who is a true freshman here. You have R.J. Martinez, as well, so some guys that have played. But we needed to get some more depth, and what Dequan brings is some experience. He's been a 3-year starter. He's the MAC Player of the Year. A little bit different than how you'd call a game with Dequan than how you'd call it with, say, Sawyer. Sawyer's more of the true pocket guy. He's a big, strong guy, and that's you got to call plays to his strength. But Dequan, he's he rushed for 600-700 yards last year and threw for all 2,800 yards as well. So you're going to get a little bit more mobile and a little bit more different, element of the game and element of play calling in terms of where you can utilize quarterback run game. And, truly don't know exactly how they all are going to operate yet, but, there's some pretty good skill sets in that room that I think we're going to be pretty fired up to work with. So, excited just to get around these guys and start building these relationships even more deeper than what it is right now.
How much have you actually sat down with any of them? You mentioned tomorrow you have meetings, but how have you had time to sit down with any of them and show what you do, or have they already studied that knowing you were hired back when you were as the offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I've got to meet with the QBs once so far, and it was a very brief meeting, but they understand. They know that tomorrow I'm going to get them caught up with the installs and just kind of, really just kind of hang out with them for a little bit. So I'm excited for that. the name of the game as well as the recruiting side of it, where we're just everybody's out on the road and hitting as many schools and trying to get ahead on our 25 and 26 recruiting classes, and they know it's going to slow down. But like I've actually been into some high schools and talked to the recruits more than I've actually talked to our current roster. So I'm looking forward to actually hanging out with them, and it all starts tomorrow.
What has it been like coming back into Texas and getting that? And of course, now the recruiting game's more national than it's ever been, but being back into Texas and getting back in with those high school coaches.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Just kind of growing up in, the Texas, Oklahoma area and just being able to walk into schools. I walked into a high school today and I just saw how just unbelievable the facilities were and just the coaches and just the organization and the structure of it all. It's fun to be a part of it. The state has got such great talent and such great coaches and just the programs and watch the development of it. It's fun to be back around it. But it's been a smooth transition because I do have the familiarity of the state of Texas. So that's been easy for me. But I've been truly enjoying, getting to go back into these schools and see these coaches again and see what kind of players they got to offer for Baylor in the upcoming years.
So last time we saw you, you were being introduced alongside Dave Aranda over at McLean Stadium, and you guys obviously had a lot of mutual respect. What's that process been like, just kind of being around him more on a daily basis, and what's sort of just the relationship as far as a sounding board and kind of bouncing off of each other?
Yeah, no, Coach, just enjoyed so far being around him. He's such an authentic, genuine person. Really takes care of his entire staff. It's not just the full-time coaches; it's just everybody that's involved with the program, and just learning from him and on how he runs his program, and from the, kind of his experiences from great programs like LSU and Wisconsin, and just kind of see his touch. It's been great to learn from him and adapt to the way he does things. But yeah, he is a ball coach, which I love. He's in there watching tape and asking questions and always wanting to just talk a new scheme or just how to defend things. Or when he watches the NFL games, on Saturday, this past Saturday and Sunday, he's talking about certain blitzes that he saw the Ravens do, and he just loves the game of football. And I'm excited to be a part of that because it means a lot to him. He takes a lot of pride in making sure he does the right thing and really cares about the kids. And you can really see that genuine, authentic touch that he brings to Baylor. But fortunate to be a part of it, and I'm very excited to keep learning from him. But the thing that fires me up the most about him is he loves the game of football, and he can sit there and talk for days and days about it.
You have been with some successful offenses based on what you've done with teams. What has been the common variable there? Is it the quarterback play, or is it much more than that?
The quarterback play has to do with a lot of it. But what I've learned over the years, it's more about just the continuity with the team and the selflessness. Like we're in a time where a lot of guys are afraid to do sacrifice for their teammates, and this is the ultimate team game. And when you get a group of guys that are willing to sacrifice for their teammates and are all on the same page, that's when it truly takes off. I've had teams that were fully committed into it. I've had teams that were 50-50 on it, and in those 50-50 teams, you really got to find the guys that you can lean on, and which makes it hard calling plays at times. It does. And what I've learned is just if these guys are willing to play hard and be on the same page and sacrifice for each other, great things are going to come with offensive football.
What's it like jumping into the Big 12 again in this? It's a brave new world of a conference. I mean, it's not the same one that when the last time you're in the conference that you left. It's there's going to be 8 new teams and all this it's got to be kind of wild from that perspective.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I coached in the Big East. I've coached in the Conference USA. I've coached in the Pac-12, and I feel like all those conferences have just kind of joined now. With UCF and Houston and BYU and Cincinnati, but then bringing in the Pac-12 teams of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Arizona State. It's just a very unique touch. I think that I don't think when you look from afar, I don't think there's anybody that is just pure dominating the league, and I think the parity is going to be pretty fun to watch. And they're great venues, and And I just think it's an interesting time. I still can't believe that the Pac-12 is completely done with, because that was just a fun league to be a part of. And it's just going to be interesting to see the new rivals and, just the new take on travel and just new venues for the Big 12. But it's a solid league. Fortunate to have a league, that is really as one of the top 4 conferences out there and, has a lot of security and stability. So really looking forward. But like you said, man, it's pretty wild. It's just a completely different landscape.
Jake, does that just blow your mind that the Pac-12, I mean, I know they're technically still alive because there's still 2 schools technically, but like you said, it's just for it to go away entirely. Did that even register on your radar when a lot of the speculation was going on last year at Cal? And just sort of how did you guys handle that if you ever felt the need to even discuss it?
Yeah, no, like I'm saying, when I was at Cal last year, we kind of got in a deal if we were actually going to be in a conference.
Right, yeah.
Because it came down to Cal, Stanford, and Oregon State and Washington State were the 4 teams left. And you're kind of sitting there, it's like, man, it's kind of sad that, these great programs of USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon are just not going to be a part of the Pac-12 anymore. And you're sitting there you're just kind of in shock that that's gone. Then you're trying to find your own conference. And who would have ever thought that Stanford and Cal would enter the ACC, which the travel of that is going to absolutely be crazy, not just for football, but for all sports. Just to be able to, I think Cal next year plays Wake Forest and North Carolina State and Syracuse and, out there on the East Coast, which that's going to be tough. A lot of those schools, you're going to have to travel on Thursdays to go about 2 days in advance just so you can get acclimated to the time change. So very interesting times in college football, but, that's why you got to be thankful where we're at and that we've got great leadership and we're a part of a great conference.
When you had to look at the quarterback room, and of course you had the discussions with Blake, who eventually decided to leave, and then Dequan comes in, did you watch a lot of film of Baylor last year? We've actually had coaches who have joined the staff before that said they didn't watch any of the film the previous year, which it was always kind of hard for me to understand that. How much of that did you dig into?
I watched all their games. I did. And more thoroughly, just being at Texas State, and removed 1 year, I was pretty familiar with the personnel, which was really good for me to at least have a good understanding of it. But you never know what happens in a year, especially in today's time. And it was good just to go through and kind of take a brief look at it. I think there's great talent here. I thought they were very young last year. I think that's what kind of fires me up a lot is that, there's a lot of young kids that have got some valuable experience in a great league. And that's what's going to be fun working with these guys in the spring because they're just going to continue to get better because, that O-line, I think there's 3 really young kids that played, which that you can't put, you can't explain how unbelievable it is for a kid to get great experience like that at that age. And it's going to be a great thing for us. But I did get to watch a lot of the talent, and just all the moving parts. I knew there was a lot of tight ends and the running backs. You got to have a good little vibe of that. And then what you could see of the receivers, I got to watch a lot of them. And I do think that there's a lot of good talent that is sitting in that room. We just got to find we got to put them in the pieces and put them in the place to put pieces in place for them to have success. And that's the fun part of watching them, put it all together.
Jake, you know that the last couple of years did not end well. Last year, of course, was struggling from almost the beginning. The loss to a place where you know a lot about with Texas State. What was the conversation with Coach Aranda and your thought process, knowing that they were coming off a bad year and knowing that there were thoughts about Coach Aranda's future and you joining his staff?
Yeah, I think that what Baylor's done in the past, they've won, and Coach Aranda's won here. You forget that, he won the Sugar Bowl, in 2021, which was a great year, and that's not, that's 2 seasons ago, really. So, I just wanted to talk with Coach on, his vision and what he wanted, and he's a very calculated man, and the thing that I really appreciate about him is he's a humble guy, and he takes ownership on last year, and he does talk about the positives and the things that are in place and what is needed. And, And he is a ball coach, like I've talked about. Like he just truly loves, being a part of it. And you talk about job security. I think there's job security issues at every school that you go to. We had the same thing when I was at University of California. I took that job last year, knowing that they're going to be on the hot seat as well. But you look at the pieces in place, you look at the vision, with Coach Aranda calling it, I think he's one of the greatest defensive minds ever. And, that's a very comforting thing for me. And I do think that he's got a great culture. When we talked about how, only 5 guys hit the portal, which I think us and Kansas are the only two, the least amount of transfers in the Big 12. And it just shows that people want to play for him. He's about diving into the kids. It's about development. I think the direction is there, and I know they got the talent to be successful.
Jake, this is the first time that Baylor will have an offense in 7 or 8 years that is this type of open. Not that you're not going to run the ball because you need to, but it's going to be a while. Baylor fans were kind of thirsty for something new, with all due respect to the Sugar Bowl team, to have something new. Did you think much about that it's been that long? They've run different offenses with Coach Rule and Coach Aranda?
Yeah, I know it. When you started kind of diving into Baylor, I really last time was, before Matt Rule was the last time they really spread it open. And that's something that kind of intrigued me too, because I think that it will cause some excitement around here, not just for the fan base, but for the players. I do think that, when you're playing an up-tempo offense and you're spreading it around and you're getting everybody touches, and I think it's a fun, exciting, type of ball, and it's going to get these kids excited to play. And that's going to be a fun thing for us. It's just watching the excitement of these guys, because there's nothing wrong with the previous schemes that they're in. Those are all good schemes. I just think that the spread offense and the up-tempo offense is very fit for the college system, because I think when you slow it down and you huddle, you got to be perfect with plays, and a lot of the times you may not have the personnel to do that, and a lot of that has to deal when when you make millions of dollars in the NFL, where you can slow the games down. Where I know that these kids will make a lot of mistakes next year, but if you're playing at a fast pace and try to get 20 more plays a game than what they're used to, I think they're going to have an opportunity to have more success. So I think they're excited right now. They're very eager. They've been hitting me up, on the phone, asking me when I'm getting off the road, because they want to start working it all. And I just know that, they're going to enjoy, the process of the off-season installs and spring football and summer and fall camp. And it's going to be fun to watch these guys put it all together.
Last question, and thanks for your time. I know you're busy. Are you more do you get more excited about hands-on practice or the preparation game plan for a game?
The hands-on practice. I think in spread, tempo offenses, you're going to do what you do, and you got to get good at it, and that's something that I've already preached to these guys, in the one time I've met with them. It's about, we got to have some consistency, and we're going to have an identity of who we are. And I think where the practice is where you figure it all out. I think you just, with all the choice routes that we run and just the demeanor that you play with and the intentions and the tempo, everything that you do in practice is going to be in direct correlation of how it translates to the game. And that's the fun part to me is it's going to be a lot of hands-on stuff and practicing with them. And eventually you're going to see it click for them, and you're going to start to see the confidence arise in these guys. And the rest is when we get to games, it's about them going out there and doing what they've worked on in practice and built their the continuity and built the identity of who they're going to be.
David Aranda, a defensive mind, Jake, but is it complementary? Have you all talked much about what you want to run on offense, what you will run on offense, what he wants to do on defense? Is there discussions about how that complements each other?
Yeah, and there's the element too of being a head coach for 4 years. I understand that you've got to complement each other, and selfishly you want to do the, like I used to be when I was a coordinator and I wasn't a head coach yet. I wanted to snap it as many times as I possibly could, even if it hurt the defense. But I've grown up a lot over the years, and you want to play fast and you want to play, smart, but you also want to make sure that you're putting the team in the right position to have success, and that's if you're you don't want to, if you're struggling moving the ball, you don't want to go out there at 3 and out in 10 seconds and punt the ball back to the defense who's playing well. You got to learn how to control the game. You got to learn how to do things the right way. And I've had a lot of talks with Coach about that already. And I know what type of vision he wants, but he does want to open it up. He wants us to go score as many points as we can. And he's really in tune on making sure that he can get the ball back as many times as possible back to the offense. So, there's going to be a lot of discussions in the future, but, just being in that head coaching role for a while, I understand the importance of making sure we're all on the same page.
Thank you for the time today. Great to hear from you. Appreciate your time.
Hey.
Jake Spavital. Yes, sir. Thank you. Jake Spavital, Baylor Offensive Coordinator with us. First time, I believe, I